Kiribati, my island in the sun, Australia tonight assess one, now in the future and for eternity.
These nursing students are a long way from their island home, undertaking degrees at Brisbane's Griffith University as part of the Kiribati Australia Nurses Initiative, or CANI, a project funded by AusAid.
When you're preparing for discharge, you're looking at community support services, client education.
To me, personally, coming to Australia and study in a big country is a really big chance, especially for those in the developing countries, so that they can have a chance to learn more things, new things, and in a proper and early standard way. And because nursing is it's like being working in a hospital has been my dream since I was a kid.
It is a great opportunity and a new thing to experience, like go overseas and see different country, very different with our cultures, and the country that's a big one because our home island is very small.
Very small is very true. Kiribati itself occupies quite a large area of the Pacific Ocean where the international date line crosses the equator. It's made up of 33 coral atolls and is home to 100,000 people. But the main island, South Tarawa, is only 30 kilometres long and 450 metres wide at the widest point. One island that's home to half the population. 50,000 people living in a very fragile ecosystem. Climate change, consequent rising sea levels and an increase in extreme weather events are constant topics of conversation here. That's because the highest point on the island is less than 2 metres above sea level, making it extremely vulnerable. The main island is already overcrowded and suffering from major environmental pressures. Add global warming, and it's one of the first countries in the world in danger of becoming uninhabitable due to climate change. The challenge is to find a solution to the immediate and long-term issues facing the country.
I don't like thinking about that idea because I don't want my island to be disappeared because it's my home and I love it.
Yeah, it seems that the land's getting a bit thinner, you know. And the causeways, they're building up more layers of seawall. Because once it's high tide, the waves just go on the road. So I see the change is very big, and I think it's because of climate change.
Climate change is being blamed for changing weather patterns, rising sea levels, and an increase in storm surge activity, tearing away at the coastline. Coconut and breadfruit trees dying as salt water invades previously fertile land. Climate change is exacerbating issues the country has faced for centuries due to drought and limited fresh water. Add in overpopulation and it's a recipe for disaster. While most people focus on headline-grabbing issues like sea level rise and storm surges, the most pressing problem for the residents of South Tarawa is access to life's most basic necessity, clean drinking water. If what appears to be the effect of climate change continues to take its course here in Kiribati, it won't be rising sea levels inundating the land that drives people from these islands. Lack of a water supply will be the major issue, as the combined effects of erosion, storm surges and drought continue to take their toll on an already fragile system.
The country will be uninhabitable long before it's underwater because of the lack of water.
Sister Morella Rebgetz is an Australian Catholic nun who also happens to be a water engineer, working on Kiribati on an AusAid-funded project advising on adaptation to climate change.
Yes, there's no above-ground water in Kiribati. It's all in the waterlands.
The lens is a zone of fresh water below the surface, separated from surrounding salt water by density, accessed by wells sunk into an ever-shrinking resource as islands erode.
Most places are only a metre and a half deep, and so if anybody has toilets nearby, if they have pigs nearby, if they've buried grandma nearby, all the waste can easily penetrate the waterlands, so it's very fragile.
With such a large population crammed into such a small island, it'll be difficult to protect the quality of the already limited drinking water. The nation's president has long been warning that his country could be uninhabitable within 50 years.
But now it seems that it might be a lot earlier. I think 2030 might be more realistic. But I think the response has to be much earlier than that.
So when you say 2030, you're saying as soon as 20 years, perhaps?
I think virtually as soon as 20 years.
The nursing program is in part a response to climate change, a partnership between the Kiribati and Australian governments to arm young people with professional skills, increasing their chances of securing employment in the region. For small and fragile economies such as Kiribati, it's important to broaden the income base, with remittances a key element.
I want to help my parents and my younger brothers and my relatives with supporting them with money. And
irrespective of the impact of climate change, population pressures and limited job opportunities mean the Kiribati government needs to look at creating more opportunities for people to gain skills that are in global demand.
The Kani project is one of a kind. I'm happy that we're the only country that's involved in this at the moment. But that kind of a model, with the Kani, it's to do with the nurses only, but I'd like to see that expand to other skills and trades. And I think the potential is there.
It reduces fertility in women.
They have 4 months training here in Kiribati, and then they go to Brisbane and they get another 4 months, and that includes academic preparation, nursing English, learning about the Australian culture, and so they get another 4 months of the same, more on the academic preparation, learning how to use computers, etc. in Brisbane, and then they can hit their degree with a lot of confidence.
And this thing was designed overall to meet the needs of unemployment among the young people of Kiribati, which is pretty serious problem. And what they decided to do would be to see if they could get a program which would enable these people in the just post-secondary school age to actually go and get a qualification which would enable them to get employment either in Kiribati or anywhere else in the world. And they struck on nursing as a possibility because there's a shortage of nurses everywhere in the world.
It's an enormous cultural shift for these young men and women from life on a tiny Pacific island to an Australian university.
Haven't been in big countries, especially like Australia, and hearing of those wild animals and crocodiles, I think they give me a lot of expectation too.
As well as hope for the future.
I think I'll be a great nurse. Yeah, I think it's a job opportunity and it's a career opportunity.
I do plan to go back to Kiribati and work there and help the people there.
I would stay here after graduation. I'll stay for a couple of years and see if I wanted to pay back the Australian government for paying all of this, and then maybe I'll go to nursing somewhere else in Europe.
Australia's unite us as one, now in the future and for eternity, in health, peace and prosperity, in health.